Music is a powerful form of art. Something that has near limitless possibilities. Music can be morphed and transformed by their artists. It can fill its listeners with hope, excitement, nostalgia, sadness, or even hopelessness. Music is what many before me have said is the human soul in its purest form. In a quiet corner of the internet is a small but still quite influential form of music. This is the obscured genre of music known as Death Dream.
Death Dream is an extremely niche genre of music, which technically is a subcategory of vaporwave. Death Dream's musical style and mood is similar to the music that plays in the background of our videos. The music is very unconventional but still as powerful. Death Dream, to be exact, is a tag that can be found on the website Bandcamp, but this tag is only used for a small collection of albums. These 75 or so songs were all released during the mid-2010s. Death Dream explores the feelings of isolation, loneliness, and sadness at its core.
Very few songs appear now on the Death Dream tag. This genre seems to have been abandoned and forgotten to the rest of the internet. In addition to becoming lost to time, similar to Dreams.com being a look back at the mid-90s internet, Death Dream is a window into the mid-2010s vaporwave boom. The covers for these songs replicate the feelings given off by them, abandoned and forgotten buildings or isolated structures, for example. The music within Death Dream is intentionally distorted and cut in various ways. Droning noises and slow beats give off the feeling of hopelessness. The music is closer to stories of lost times and forgotten people than it is being a conventional genre of music.
These Death Dream albums are very interesting mixes of dark vaporwave-like sounds, mixed with sounds that replicate the feelings associated with anxiety and depression. This genre is very open to creative choices for those who choose to make them. Death Dream is closer to a story told through aesthetic choices than it is songs. The YouTube user Pad Chennington, who both gave a fresh spotlight and inspired us to make this video, showed off a handful of albums that explore what Death Dream is about. The most popular of all being Reflections, produced by the Korean artist known as Father. This album tells a story of self-reflection and disconnection through music. These albums do well to push the listener into the mind of the creators or characters depicted within the album. Death Dream can be recognized by weak droning sounds that almost barely seem to reach your ears.
The cover for this particular album you may recognize if you're familiar with these darker forms of music. White Death is much darker than Reflections. It's a quiet, slow album lacking rhythm. Listeners have described the album's feel to be similar to the feeling of being watched in a dark alleyway. Many of these album covers for music under the Death Dream tag remind me of images known as liminal spaces. Images many of you may already be aware of. Liminal spaces are images of areas which normally would be populated that are completely empty or at a time in which you'd normally not see them.
Examples of liminal spaces would include an empty school at night or an empty water park or mall. These images give a sense of unsettling anxiety or even nostalgia. It's a similar feeling you get when listening to Death Dream. Ironically, liminal spaces have also been adopted into vaporwave as an aesthetic.
Some say that liminal spaces make them aware of their own mortality. Seeing a Kmart seemingly abandoned with echoing music, knowing that a place or business is on its last legs and will soon die, make one think of when it's their time to go. The infamous Backrooms is considered a liminal space. Its dingy yellow walls and seemingly never-ending halls can scare anyone with an active imagination. The reason for these liminal spaces being so unsettling is due to the way our brains are wired. We are naturally looking for patterns and context. Seeing these different places that are so familiar with an unfamiliar way is so unsettling and startling. We recognize playgrounds, but we don't exactly recognize them at night.
Liminal spaces also attract people due to its familiarity. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos called Pictures That Are Oddly Familiar or Pictures That You've Seen in Your Dreams. Like mentioned before, we search for context. We most likely have never been to these places shown in images, but we have seen a place similar to the places in the images. Nostalgia is extremely powerful. We can be nostalgic for places or things that we have never even been to. That's the power of liminal spaces.
I, for one, am nostalgic for old video games, most of them I've never even played before myself. This nostalgia comes from games in a similar style, or videos that I've watched on the game. Most of us have been to a gas station or arcade, at least the people from the US who were born between the 90s and 2000s. That's a reason why some liminal spaces don't work for others from different countries. Many kids from different countries did not grow up with the same things that we did, so they have their own unique liminal spaces. Once again, Death Dream can give a feeling of nostalgia and uncomfortableness to its viewers for the exact same reason.
An album that is technically not under the same genre as Death Dream, but is very similar, is Towers, a dark ambient album. The cover itself is unsettling, similar to Death Dream, a small character falling through a large dark city. What makes it so similar, though, is its ability to throw the listener into the world of the album.
The album is split into 4 songs, Towers 1 through 4. The point of this dark genre is to give a sense of vastness and ominous dark feelings. Towers was made in a way that makes you feel small. Dark ambient, like Death Dream, uses droning sounds and echoing noises to give the listener a dragging feeling, as if each second takes your entire being to trudge through.
Towers was also made to replicate the feeling of a late-night cityscape. I'm sure we all understand the feeling of a town or city late at night. The lights, the sound, the people, it can be surreal and almost dreamlike, which both Dark Ambient and Death Dream replicate very well.
Towers overall is something that we cannot give full justice to. The creator of the full album Reflections, known as Father, was a forerunner of the niche genre, creating many popular albums. White Death was the album the creator of Reflections released a year prior. These Death Dream and Dark Ambient albums are capable of recreating very similar emotions of alienation and loneliness.
In December of 2020, the creator of Reflections and White Death created a new album called Residue. Similar to the others, this album has droning tones. Residue reminds me of an ambient video game soundtrack similar to Silent Hill. It would make sense of the album to have an ambient, foggy city street. The cover used for Residue is interesting, a plain white cover similar to the Beatles' White Album, with subtle colors of teal and orange to give it its own flair.
Residue shows that the genre of Death Dream is still alive even after so many years. Projects like Liminal Spaces, Dark Ambient, or Death Dream are all very unique forms of art by specific types of people. I believe that people in similar age groups of mid-20s to mid-teens have similar ideas and memories that can be conveyed through art. Much of these darker genres of music are very personal stories of difficult times. They replicate the feelings that we all go through as we experience life. Death Dream is very small yet very powerful. It can give us a feeling of being at our lowest points. Just another example of the power of music.
Not just the power of music, but the power of nostalgia as well. Our mind is strong and can bring us from our best memories to our darkest moments. Thanks for staying curious with us. We'll be back soon.
Join us again next season when we once again go obscure.